Don't ever start from seeds directly in the GreenStalk. You will fail, said nobody. Hi there, my name is Tara and I garden in the Bay Area, and I have 5 gorgeous GreenStalks that I've been growing in for the past 3 years. And today we are going to be direct seeding cool season vegetables in my GreenStalks. One of the things I love most about fall gardening is that you can start your seeds directly outside. You don't have to start them indoors, grow them as transplants, and then bring them outside because the weather is so warm still and the seeds will germinate quickly. Also, you'll have none of those pesky fungal diseases that tend to attack plants when they're started indoors. And you can succession plant, so herbs like cilantro or any of your leafy greens, spinach, lettuce, you can plant them every 2 to 3 weeks so that you've got a continuous harvest nonstop. But what about the GreenStalk? Can you seed directly in the GreenStalk? And the answer is an absolute yes, but there are a few considerations that are a little bit different about the GreenStalk that you need to be aware of so that you have success direct sowing in it. And so today I'm going to share with you my top 8 or so tips to grow successfully from seed in the GreenStalk. Now, to be clear, I'm talking only about starting cool weather vegetables directly. Things like tomatoes, peppers, eggplant that are summer vegetables, you're just much better off starting them as transplants and then getting them into the GreenStalk. And in fact, I don't even grow things like broccoli, cabbage, or cauliflower, those bigger winter vegetables. I always get them to a decent sized transplant before I put them in there. But first, let me show you what I'm planting in my GreenStalk. So here are all my seeds that I'm going to be growing. Finally, I'm going to be growing peas again. I've been waiting all year to grow peas again. And I've got carrots and I've got beets. For beets, I'm growing this variety called Cylindra. Now, it's a short, elongated variety. I once made the mistake, actually, last year of growing a very large, round beet in my GreenStalk, and everything grows better in the GreenStalk. I always say that. It grew so large that I thought that it was actually going to crack the petal. So not making that mistake again. And for carrots, I'm growing Little Finger, so it's a shorter variety and should fit nicely in one of those original tiers. I'm going to be growing Siberian dwarf kale. Never grown this variety before, looks really pretty, and a lot of dwarf varieties seem to do better in the GreenStalks. And this is Komatsuma from seeds that I saved. Komatsuna mustard is a mild Japanese mustard, does not taste as strong as regular mustard, and very, very delicate, very, very flavorful. Love it. And I'm going to be growing cilantro again and arugula, 2 of my favorite cool season herbs. Can't get enough of them. And last but by no means least, I'm going to be growing lettuce. This is a mesclun mix, and this is one of my favorites, Marvel of the Four Seasons. So I just refreshed this GreenStalk. I completely took it apart, cleaned it nicely, and then put some refreshed soil into it, and it's ready to be planted. Now, one thing you'll notice is I have labeled the GreenStalk even before I planted, and that really is my first step. A little planning goes a long way when it comes to planting up a GreenStalk, because there are a few rules, or I should say guidelines, about how you want to plant things in what order in the GreenStalk. Usually you want to plant the larger plants at the bottom and then go up to the smaller plants, because you don't want the plants on the top tier to sort of shade out the bottom tier plants. One year I actually grew nasturtiums in the topmost tier. It looked so gorgeous, cascading over the edge, but it completely shaded out all the plants in the lower tiers. So those are some of the things that you need to think about, but not too many rules. So by labeling my GreenStalk beforehand, I can get a good general idea as to whether or not the plants are going to hang together properly. I can also take a step back and kind of visualize what it might look like after it's all planted up, because for me, the aesthetics of the GreenStalk are as important, or maybe even more important, than what they produce. They look gorgeous when they're filled with the right combination of plants, and they bring me a lot of joy. So that's really, really important. But the main reason why I label before I plant is because if I don't, I will forget. Especially when you're planting seeds, you won't remember what you've planted in the pockets. With transplants, you can kind of figure out because you can see the plant, but with seeds, once you plant them, you will definitely forget. So label your GreenStalk before you plant your seeds. Oh, and speaking of aesthetics, there is one thing that I forgot. Let me get it. Flowers. You need to plant flowers in your GreenStalk. I have this absolutely gorgeous seed bank from a company called Lush Dew, and they make a lot of different types of seed banks. I'll do a separate video just on this company and the seed banks that they make because they are really, really cool. I don't think I've seen any other company make these seed banks, and basically what they are is they are a themed collection of seeds, I guess is the best way to put it. And this particular one that I have, look how pretty that is, you guys. This is the cut flower mix, and it's got like the very popular flowers that most people grow in their gardens. Zinnias, cosmos, snapdragons, asters, sunflowers, calendula. And so it's really great to have something like this that you can just grab and go into your garden and plant. And if you've got kids, oh my gosh, won't they love these pretty, pretty boxes? So I'm going to be planting calendulas. They've got varieties over here that I've not grown before. Geisha Girl, Pacific Beauty Yellow, Pacific Apricot Beauty, and Pink Surprise. So I'm going to be growing maybe one or two of these colors in my GreenStalk as well. But follow along if you want to learn more about this company and the lovely seed banks that they create, because I think coming up on the holidays, they're absolutely fantastic giftables. So tip number 2 is seed prep. Anything that you can do to give your seeds a little bit of a head start before you plant them in the GreenStalk would be hugely beneficial, especially for the seeds that take a little bit longer to germinate. And I've got in this little baggie over here carrot seeds that I am pre-sprouting. I put them in this bag a couple of days ago, and I also soaked my cilantro seeds. I had actually also soaked my pea seeds, and I planted those already because I did not want them to rot in that cup. I got a little delayed in making the video, so I've planted those up already. And by the way, I've already put in place that trellis. If you want to know what that trellis is, leave a comment below and I'll explain that to you. But cilantro also benefits from pre-soaking because these seeds will dry out very quickly in the GreenStalk. The GreenStalk, particularly compared to, say, a raised bed or a planter, the soil is very, very light and airy, which is nice to grow plants in, but it also has the disadvantage that it dries out very quickly. That's why it's really important to water your GreenStalk, particularly in the pockets when you plant seeds directly, which actually is my tip number 3. After you plant in the GreenStalk, do not rely on the top watering system to get the water into the pockets. The seeds, once they dry out, they are gone. They are dead. So you have to water the pockets regularly. Come and check, make sure that they're constantly moist until you see the seeds germinating. And after that, you can start relying more on your top watering system. Another advantage of pre-sprouting your seeds is that you can actually see them germinating. These carrots, they develop those tiny little tails, and you can know that they are germinating. The last thing that you want is empty pockets in your GreenStalk and then having to start over. So my tip number 4 is make sure that the seeds that you're planting are almost guaranteed to grow. In other words, that the seed stock is fresh or that you've tested the germination beforehand. For especially your home saved seeds, make sure that they will grow. Okay, let's go plant up our seeds, and I'm going to share with you some more really cool tips. But before we do that, if you're getting value from this video, folks, I sure would appreciate a thumbs up, and do comment below. I love hearing from you, and it also helps spread the video around. Thank you so much. When you plant directly from seed, you want to make sure that you fill up the pockets all the way to the top. So no more than a centimeter, a half inch or so from the top should be the level of the soil. If it's any lower than that, say like this is about 2 inches, that's way too low, because guess what? It's going to drop even lower once you plant the seeds, and it is so difficult to backfill when you've got seedlings. When you've got transplants, you can kind of stick some soil behind the transplants, but with seedlings, it's practically impossible to do. So make sure that you fill it up all the way to the top as much as possible. And tamp it down too. The other tip is watering. Come out here a few times during the day on the day that you're planning to sow the seeds, and make sure that you're watering it down, because you want the soil to be nice and moist for the seeds to adhere properly to it. The dry soil in the GreenStalk is very difficult to hydrate, so make sure that it's well hydrated before you plant the seeds. Okay, let's fill up our pockets a little bit more, because the first thing that we're going to be planting up is our cilantro. Fill it all the way to the top and tamp down. See how much soil it's taking? I like to sow my cilantro fairly thick. I've got quite a good quantity and only 2 pockets that I'm going to be putting it in. And I'm going to show you another trick that I use when I plant seeds, especially like cilantro, to make sure that they really get in there into the soil. Make sure that you spread them out as evenly as possible. Put a little bit of soil on the top. And here is my magic trick. Now, if you watch my cilantro videos, you will know that I like to cover my cilantro, and I like to put a weight on top of it. The reason is because I sow it really thick, and then when they start to grow, they just push up all the soil and the roots kind of go every which way. So putting this weight on top really forces the roots to grow downward. But I do come out every day after 5 days and check to make sure that it's growing, because once it starts growing, you need to remove this immediately. Oh, and by the way, these covers, that's my other tip, they really help keep the soil nice and moist while the seeds are germinating. Now, you want to make sure that you do this only for seeds that do not require light for germination, which are most seeds, frankly. A lot of teeny tiny flower seeds do require light for germination, and I think lettuce does as well, so I won't cover those. But most of the other seeds, if you put this little thing on top, and you can use a cardboard, just kind of cut it to this petal shape, it really helps retain the moisture in the soil, and that way you don't have to water as much. Let's plant up my arugula. Again, I'm going to sow this fairly thick and just kind of scrape it into the top layer of soil, cover it up. And my final tip is for watering the pockets. Until the seeds germinate and have nice roots that are well established in the soil, you need to use a mist setting when you water this, and come out and water every day. And if you're having hot days like we still have, a couple of times a day. If you use forceful settings on your hose, you could just move the seeds around. You'll flush them into the adjacent pocket or into the back, and it's just not going to be fun. So very mild mist setting is what you want to do. So I'm going to finish up planting the rest of this, and follow along if you want to see how this GreenStalk is doing. And if you've got any other tips you want to share in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, folks, live green and love your greens.